Stay tuned to the Ask Dr. Ross podcast. It's created to give you info to succeed at college. Our hosts are highly qualified. Dr. Catherine Ross is a member of the University of Texas System's Academy of Distinguished Teachers. She's also a popular professor of 19th century English literature. Co-host and multimedia editor Nathan Witt provides a student perspective. Ask Dr. Ross is a community service of the University of Texas at Tyler.
Hello, I'm Catherine Ross. This is a podcast for families and students, those who are in college, those who are thinking about going to college, and even older adults who might think about going back to university. We're real interested in hearing about your experiences, and we want to try to answer as many of your questions as we can.
If you would like to ask Dr. Ross a question, email her at adrquestions@gmail.com.
Today, we're going to talk about belonging.
Yes, I think it may be one of the most important parts of the private, personal experience of a student. What'd you say?
100%.
We're talking today with two folks at UT Tyler who have been here for quite a while, both as students and administrative staff. Joshua Neaves. Tell us what you do, Josh.
Hello, my name is Joshua Neaves. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Student Success and Director of Student Engagement.
And you've been at UT Tyler since?
I've been at UT Tyler since 2015. I started on the first day of class.
Okay.
Cool.
The other thing that's interesting about Josh is that he had a private liberal arts college experience as an undergrad, and then he went to one of our state universities to get his master's degree, which is a master's in what?
In higher education and student personnel.
So he is really highly trained and personally experienced in this issue of student belonging.
Yeah.
Our other guest is Ms. Cameron Long Richmond, recently married, who is also a graduate of UT Tyler and a graduate student, but she holds a very interesting and important job in our Office of Student Engagement. So tell us about yourself, Cameron.
Yeah, so I'm the coordinator for campus activities. I do a lot of event planning and programming to make sure that students have something to do outside of the classroom, outside of their dorm, get to know each other.
According to your boss, who's sitting over across the table here, you've done a lot of other kind of interesting things that pertain to student activities as well. Would you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, I guess professionally, I started off as the coordinator for parent-family programs in the Department of Student Engagement and then moved on to my current title. But before that, like I said, I got my undergraduate at UT Tyler as well, where I was involved in Student Government Association. I was involved in the Honors College. I was involved in Housing and Residence Life.
Wow.
And a few committees and such around there. Yeah.
So you belonged. You belonged.
Yes.
In fact, why don't we start by asking you this question. How do you define this notion of belonging for student success?
Yeah, that's a really fantastic question, and I think that is what a lot of people in higher ed, especially student affairs, are trying to figure out what that means and what that looks like. For me, as a student, it came with a lot of communities that I got to be a part of, and I think it goes beyond being a part of a community and having friendships and relationships with people, but it also comes with having something to work towards, whether that's your degree, but for me, my degree and my education was fantastic, but I also wanted to do more than that, and so I got to do leadership opportunities, which makes you passionate about the community that you're in and further feel like you belong and you have a purpose in that community. So I would say, I'd say that's a huge part of it is having a community that's working towards something and that you guys are all passionate about it.
I think most of us have recognized that since COVID, replacing those years of lost community and lost connection is a really important thing. Yeah. Sounds like you were here before that happened, but then also through all that. And so we'll be interested to hear a lot more from you. Now, coming from the administrative side of things, the grown-up people,
we still have fun.
Yeah, I know. I do too. Here's one of the things is that you have to cope with one of the issues that's happened in higher education is that we're not just a residential community anymore. In fact, we've got a lot of commuters, we've got a lot of online students, and a lot of students who transfer here after being connected elsewhere and are at a kind of different plateau in their education, so that helping all those different populations to connect and feel like they belong here is kind of an administrative nightmare.
It goes back to your first question, belonging. Belonging, I think, means many different things. And for our students, depending on the student, it looks different for them. And I firmly believe that it's everyone's job at an institution to engage students and to work with students and to help our students, because I think to try to help identify where students, what they're looking for, goes a long way. And from an administrative standpoint, it does play a huge role in retention and recruitment. And then when we look past when a student graduates, whether they return as an alumni or not. And so the more that we can engage and build that sense of affinity with our students and to help our students identify where they can get connected, it's a ripple effect. It goes a long way, not just in the moment with the student, but down the road. And so belonging can look really different. I think Dr. Ross already highlighted it's going to look different for online students, transfer students especially, our distance campus students. And a lot of institutions of higher ed have satellite campuses, and we've got to make sure that we get them just as connected as the main campus. It could be your traditional campus activities. When people hear student engagement and campus activities, they think of your traditional things. The student org showcases, barbecue events, tailgates, movie nights, but it's so much more than that. It could be, as Cameron already highlighted a little bit, interacting with residence life and housing, where people live, where our students live, but for our commuters who may not have that experience, okay, how do we get them connected in a student group or with faculty? I think faculty play a tremendous role in, especially at new student orientation, we heavily emphasize take advantage of those office hours. Get to work with faculty. We have some outstanding faculty at not only UT Tyler, but in UT system. And so many are willing to be a research partner or to be an on-campus advisor for a student group. And so to push students to make those connections go a long way.
How do we get youngsters who come here, either they're really busy and they don't have time, or they're really shy?
That's a challenge, right? Because I think when it comes to engaging students, sometimes it's easy for our extroverts to instantly get plugged in because it comes natural. So for our introverts, I've seen introverts be equally involved and be successful and learn those skills. It's not just helping them belong or develop that sense of affinity here, but I'm a firm believer that we're also educators. I believe that
I mean, staff are also educators.
Correct.
Yes, you bet.
And administrators. It's not just,
Administrators.
it's everybody's educators, because I think learning not only takes place inside the classroom, but outside.
Absolutely.
And to be able to apply some of those soft skills is important. What you're learning from the faculty, let's apply it now out in the real world. That's super important. Every employer is looking for someone who can work in a team, who has a strong work ethic, who can communicate both written and verbally, and has time management skills. That's the big thing.
Sure.
And so when students come say, I don't have time to do that. I'm working an on-campus job, an off-campus job. I'm taking 15 hours. We challenge them, say, okay, let's look at what else are you doing and how there might be something for someone to get plugged in. And because when they graduate, they hopefully have developed those soft skills by being involved. But then when they go into their career, they realize, oh my gosh, I have great time management skills. I'm going to go get involved in the community and make a difference.
Now, I try to teach time management in my courses, but I'm only one of 5 teachers students have, plus all that outside of class life. Where do students at universities like ours, where do they learn time management? What do we do, or do we do anything for that?
It comes down to what all are you doing? Are you doing more than the average person?
But who asks them that?
Well,
Who asks them that and helps them guide through it? That's my question.
I think that kind of goes to Josh's piece of everybody has a play into it. It's a dual part. Staff members, we are always encouraging, go to class, make sure you graduate. I always tell my students, graduation's the number one goal. But beyond that, it's faculty saying, okay, go out, go to events, go get involved, have leadership opportunities. And then it's really learning what activities and time make them feel fulfilled, make them feel good about themselves and is rewarding to them and isn't just something that takes up their time. What can you do right now that's being offered to you? You can't get anywhere else, and what do you want that time to look like?
What you just said there is an important thing a lot of students who are in a big hurry to get out of college forget, is this is going to be the only place where they get to practice time management without
Absolutely.
big consequences. It's also a great place for honing those people skills, especially if you're not one of those outreaching, extroverted types.
It goes back to your question, how do we do that? I stand by my comment. It's everybody's job, and it's our outreach efforts. It's when we identify when students are not involved, are not showing up to class. I think our advisors do a phenomenal job helping our students already with that. Is when students come in and say, I'm struggling academically, they know the resources available on campus to get them plugged in so that we can help them bounce back not only academically, but hopefully set them up where they don't fall back into that situation again. There are multiple approaches to ensuring that we try to get our students involved.
Yeah.
This is really important for our listeners to hear, that universities have built in
Yes.
to their programs these kinds of things. So spin out a couple of those and tell us about some of the ways that you help to make sure students that are slipping or getting quiet or whatever it is.
So we were a little late to the game as far as an institution, but 2019 we launched Patriots Engage.
Yeah.
And that is our student engagement platform where we can centralize where all of the activities and opportunities that a student can do can go to. Service, student groups, campus activities. We're getting ready to launch PASS, which is a pathway program. It can be like, I want the accomplish the first year experience path. And students can opt into that and then be a little motivated, a little extra motivation as that gamification piece to where they can visually see their progress and hopefully motivate them to step outside their comfort zone.
Kind of like a video game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
You
little
get a
bit.
badge. You get certified to do this.
They can do reflections about their learning experiences. And then what's really a cool feature is that when they get ready to graduate, there's a co-curricular transcript option. They click that button and it generates everything they've done while a college student, and it's a reminder to them, I did this. So that when they go into an employer and the employer says, tell me about your leadership skills,
Yeah.
they can have that document and remind themselves, like, I know how to handle conflict. I know
Time
how to
management,
communicate.
too.
Time management.
I went to 150 events in my college career.
Yep.
That shows.
And here's what I learned,
Yes.
which is really important. Learning outcomes associated with certain events. Just having that software goes a long way because on the administrator side, we're able to generate data on who our students are. What are our students doing?
Yeah.
What do students like? Because even after COVID, it's hard to, one, get students to get involved and to figure out what students like. And so if we're able to look at the data points and say, okay, this event was a huge success, maybe we need to invest a little bit more into this. Or if we see some of our traditional programs not doing well, maybe we need to reduce that.
So this is called Patriots Engage, and it's a platform that all the students can have, like an app on their phone or their computer.
It's a website.
It's
A
right now
website.
it's a website. It's very mobile friendly because we want to make sure that it's accessible to all students. And so those who might use screen readers or voice to text, it works with that. We are looking at options to convert that into an app, but the times when we've talked to students and focus groups about an app, they prefer it the way it is.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I am. And one of the things he didn't mention that I think is super cool about now Patriot Engage is it's just for UT Tyler. But if you are listening and you're thinking about going to UT Tyler, what's cool is that you can filter
Yes.
by what you're interested in or what is offered. If it's free food or free goodies and stuff, you can filter through that. I've got a couple friends who will plan out meals of, okay, I know that this event is happening and they've got free pizza, so Thursday for dinner, I'm good. And so that's like a cool feature of what Patreon
And it's
is.
heavily used on the event side and even student groups. When I meet with students and they come in and say, oh, I'm interested in doing this. And I say, well, we have a student group for this. This college supports a student group that does this. We use the filters and we quickly find it. Because we are growing as an institution and UT system as a whole is growing, every academic institution is using a platform similar.
This is what my next question is. There something like this at most universities and
Yes.
colleges these days, so that if our audience isn't coming straight here, they know about it? Because
Yes.
I think one of the things we've heard the most, and I know I experience the most with students, is keeping up with what's going on, keeping track,
Yeah.
communicating.
What I thought was interesting was at the beginning when you mentioned that every student has a different definition of belonging. And I'm just curious because when you said that, instantly that made sense to me, but I've never thought about it like that before. I'm curious how that understanding that everyone has their own definition of belonging influences y'all's approach to creating belonging.
It goes back to data. I think that's having that platform went a long way of being able to help identify where are areas of growth and areas of opportunity to where we can invest resources in to figure out what students want.
Yeah.
It allows us to shift our focus a little bit to be able to target things that we're not doing. And so student affairs as a whole in higher education, this has been evolving for many years.
Yeah.
Instead of a one-size-fits-all model, we have been trying to develop areas of affinity to make sure that we're capturing as many students as possible. Because what one group of students likes to do, another group of students may not, but they're still
Sure.
paying the same price. And so we want to make sure that we provide as many opportunities as possible.
Well, you talked about areas of growth and using data to find out what students want, and I want to talk about that. But I also want to ask you about what they need. A lot of times students don't know what they need.
What do they want?
They want free stuff every time. Hands down, they want free stuff.
Yeah.
But tying that into what they need, I get really caught up in that as somebody who does constant programming. I'll go to students, I talk to them, what do you want? What do you want me to do? How can I make you a good experience for you in college? And like, I'd like a free shirt. So a free meal would be great. And I'm like, okay, but what is that adding to your life? What value are you taking away from it? I think it is that piece of students don't know what they need, and so we try and lure them in with the free stuff and hope that they stay around for the stuff, the really good stuff that we get them.
COVID really disrupted a lot of things. And I think engagement was one of those, as well as expectations. Some of the data that we were seeing right before COVID happened was that the free food and free stuff wasn't enough. They wanted bigger. They wanted big prizes. And that's just something that's not possible with the
Well,
current
it's a state
resources.
university. It's not what the legislature's going to give us money for.
Correct. But what they need, in my opinion, is more of those leadership opportunities, more of those professional development.
Exactly.
And it's orientation's a program that students don't want to do, but they need it. And I think leadership programs and professional development, service learning is a big thing. It's hard to get students to volunteer now, more than ever. When I think about my time when I was a college student and when there were service opportunities, we jumped on real quick. Now that's speaking of going to a small liberal arts, that was just instilled to us. That's what you do. But with this newer generation of students, it's often that students see as, what do I get now? What do I get in the moment? They're not seeing it as an investment in themselves for down the road.
Why do you think that is?
I think a shift in mindset, a shift in culture.
As a young person, because I think coming in as a freshman in 2017, the first thing I ever did was go to the food bank. The second I saw that, I was like, heck yes, I get to do this. This is something I did in high school.
Did you go to get food or did you go to volunteer?
Yeah, food bank. I was helping give food. But now we see this shift, and the issue is exacerbated by COVID severely. And from me having a background in counseling, I view it as students that are coming into college have had to do so much emotional labor, and they have had to suffer through major world events, and they're here and they've given everything to get where they are, and we are asking them to do more for others. And that is hard. I think there's a lot of narrative around the fact that our students are selfish now, or they don't want to do things for other people. They've had to work really hard to make it themselves, and to do more emotional labor is a whole another task.
And it's not just students, though. It's
Yeah.
faculty, staff.
Yeah.
as well.
Everybody.
I was going to say the whole community is
The whole
suffering
world.
from that.
Yes.
When you study how you manage your daily life, psychologists will analyze the number of decisions you have to make. You get decision fatigue
Yes.
at a certain part of the day, and college gives students a whole lot of decisions, and they're already tired, as you say.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think the economics have never been less in our favor as a young college student.
Yep.
I think that probably, at least from my perspective, and y'all see it a lot closer, y'all look to student engagement a lot more than I do, but it has gotten harder to justify volunteering for free and stuff like that when eggs are however much they are today.
You have belonged to 3 different universities, Nathan.
I started at Dallas Baptist University,
Small private liberal arts.
small religious school, and then I went to Collin College in Plano and
Which is a community college.
community college, and now I'm here.
Did you feel like you belonged in any of those places, and what made it happen?
My first year at DBU, since it's such a small college, there wasn't a ton to do on campus. Now, what was nice is it's very tightly packed up on this hill. You're literally fenced in, and everyone has to live on campus. So there was that, definitely an on-campus community. You get out of class, you got nothing else to do. Weekends, you got nothing else to do, so you meet people. But I was also in a local fraternity there at DBU. Sometimes they get a bad rap, fraternities and sororities, but I will always be a fan of what they can offer to someone as far as a sense of belonging. And what's nice is, as expensive as membership dues can be, that money isn't just like padding someone's pocket. That goes to all these events that they add more activities. And
That's what tuition is at the end of the day. At least
true,
student
yeah.
fee money for what our office does. It's just larger scale.
And we've talked about that in our next coming episode. We talk about how you pay for these things, take advantage of them. But
And advocate for the things that we don't have that they students want. Be willing to advocate, because leadership needs to hear that. Our legislators need to hear that students do want these experiences, and that we do need to be investing into some of these experiences.
I think students need to hear that they
We
will
listen.
listen to you. Yeah.
Students have so much power. I would argue I had more power as a student government senator on campus than I do as a staff member.
Interesting.
Their word is powerful. They make it happen. It's really quite remarkable.
Now, when you were at community college, did you
Yeah.
feel like you belonged?
So I had a much different experience.
The reason I ask that is a lot of our students have come from community college, and so I don't know that they see how different it can be.
Yeah, we just didn't have as much going on. Maybe part of it was that I didn't know where to find it, but just didn't get plugged in, and spent a year feeling like an outsider on my own campus. What I have found this year of being plugged in with everything that I am now is my grades are a lot better. Like, I'm more motivated in my classes. And I was wondering, Josh, if y'all happen to know any of those like numbers around student engagement. I know they're out there.
So many years ago, the research showed it was a bell curve. The more involved you got, there was a point to where you were too involved. And I still believe that's the case.
Sure.
However, the data that we've collected so far here at this institution, it's linear. The more involved you get, the more academically successful you are. And it's phenomenal.
Can we also talk about, down that vein, of the mental health element behind belonging?
Yeah.
Because on top of professional success, educational success, belonging, especially on campus while you're a student, plays a huge role in your mental health, and college is difficult. And so having that kind of outlet, is that something that y'all put a lot of thought into when you...
I think, yes. I think it helps with alleviating some of that stress and helping students who might have depression or anxiety, not only being involved, but also mentorship. That helps a long way, because I think they're looking for that connection to be able to express how they feel, to what they're going through, and to have someone to be alongside there. It plays a huge role. And when students get involved and make those connections, I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
And one of the
Love it.
pillars is love and belonging. And to have those connections, I think it does help with having a healthy mental health as well as a healthy work-life balance.
And if you look at higher ed, and Josh can speak to this more because he's the one that told me about it, but higher ed as like a profession is really deeply rooted in counseling and mental health, and it stems from that. They're very closely related in their theoretical background.
I'll tell you, the best teachers are the ones that are good amateur psychologists who can recognize when a student is excited or when a student is turned off, when they can know how to reach out to a student privately or help to engage them. And I've always felt as though as much of what I do in the classroom has to do with being a caring human who is for them. So belonging has changed a lot over the last 10 years, hasn't
Yeah.
it? But I also think that with the advent of student media, and just when I see students walking down the hall, instead of talking to each other, they're looking at a phone.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about that. How has that influenced y'all's definition of belonging and how you engage students?
It is tough. Even just, I employ students, and one of the positions is marketing communications. I'd say 30% of it is social media. 70% of it is belongingness in our organization and recruitment for our organization. And what is focused on? Why do every single person that applies for that position wants to do it because they know how to do social media. That's fantastic. Do you know how to talk to people? Like, how skilled are you at that? And it's super overlooked, but that is what people do. That is today's version of connection is through social media. And there's so many issues that are associated with that.
Like what?
You don't have that personal connection. People aren't putting their honest selves out into the public eye, which is, it's just harmful. Even just a personal experience with social media, I see all these people, they're going out, they're having friends, and I think, oh, have I missed out on the opportunity to be a part of something? And it's really not. Those people probably have sat at home being like, let me post this to validate the fact that I am not alone right now. And they might feel alone in actuality.
Yeah.
And then who are they posting to? Or who's listening to them?
Right.
sad.
It's into the void. You can just yell out into social media and nobody's going to really yell back to you with a genuine response most of the time.
It's funny you say that about the marketing position. We had to fill a couple editor roles at the start of this semester. We had to fill the social media manager. We also had to fill the editor-in-chief, right? Boss man. And we had 7 people apply for the social media manager. We had 2 people apply for the head of the entire organization. How interesting that shift is that people just want to, that's where the head is right now.
And it's forced. It's that people to not engage with social media would be doing themselves a huge disservice. So it's people who are like, social media is evil, don't do it. If you don't have
you
it,
got to be involved in it.
you
some
have
way.
to be involved. You're
Or
missing
at least
out
aware
on
of it.
Yeah, you're missing out on job opportunities. You're missing out on connection opportunities.
You have to adapt.
Yeah.
And marketing and reaching out to students has evolved. When I see tabling across campus, they're behind the table on their phone sometimes. And I'm like, as Cameron mentioned, you got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to do something and get them to your table to get them. I remember one of our groups on campus, they did something fun. And it wasn't even about what they were promoting. It was just a question of the day. And students gravitated because it was creative and they were something. For us as an institution, things such as just setting up outside and playing music goes a long way. It changes the vibe of campus. And then when students come up and say, hey, can you play this song? All of a sudden you're interacting with students. It's something simple as that goes a long way. But it has to be creative.
You have to do social media, but you have to do more than social media.
And there's a lot of different platforms, right? Because I'm probably the Facebook generation. I don't think we are seeing a lot of success with Twitter. I don't think students are there. Instagram is still a popular social media platform.
I feel like marketing-wise, you have a whole new animal that just popped up in the past recent years of like, how do you get people engaged?
I remember back in the dark ages when I went to my private liberal arts college, there was a dean of students, and I think he had or she had one admin, and we just got ourselves around. And so I think part of it is we're so huge, we need help.
Yes.
But I also think there's a greater passivity or reluctance that has been brought on. And I don't think it's just COVID, and I don't think it's just social media. I think it's partly the economy. You and I have talked about that before, Nathan. Yeah. There's a lot of factors that are causing students today to be, I think, more passive, less willing to step outside of a kind of a safe space. And that's all of our job, to help them test themselves a little more, but test themselves in a safe and productive way. So I'm thinking as we wrap this up, what do we want to say to the folks out in our area who may be going to college or having youngsters that may be going to college, maybe thinking about coming back themselves? And I think if we had to give them one message about belonging, what would it be, Cameron?
I would share a little piece of my own story. I left high school really having zero desire to be a part of college. I was pretty gun set on just being a beauty school dropout and seeing where that takes me. And I got here, and for me it was UT Tyler, but it could be anything for anybody. But I got here, and it was that piece of belonging. It was this, okay, I'm surrounded by people who are driven, who are excited about life and their futures, and I want to join in on it. And so let me do that. When it comes to belonging, I think if you're going into UT College, no matter where you are in your life or what you have figured out or what you haven't figured out, is just come into it with an open mind and let it change you. don't be stuck. Don't be stubborn. Take advantage of everything that's available. There is so much out here. There's an entire massive population at UT Tyler, even bigger at other colleges that are just there to help you succeed. And you get to define that. You get to take those opportunities and shape them to you, but you have to allow that. You have to open yourself up to it.
And your story is so interesting to me because now you're going on to getting a master's degree in counseling. So you went from being a beauty school dropout to someone who can really make a difference in this community and among the people that we know in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful that's been your experience.
Yeah. When I was in parent-family programs, I would present to parents, and I said that UT Tyler saved me from a lifetime of not living up to my potential. And so I want that for other people now.
And that's exactly what Nathan and I have been talking about from the very beginning. How can you be better? How can you be happier? How can you have a richer life experience and be happy you were here? What about you, Joshua?
I think the short answer is see it as an investment in yourself.
Yeah.
That's the short answer. Higher education is the marketplace of ideas. This is the time to be exposed to different subjects, beliefs, opinions,
People.
to people, and to develop your skill set. So when you go out into your career, you are more prepared than ever before. And then the second thing I often add to orientation, set yourself apart from other students, not just here at this institution, but any other institution. And finish what you start. But I want our students to go out and be able to compete with someone who may have gone to Harvard or Yale, and to be able to clearly articulate why they should be selected over somebody else. And then when they get into that position, be able to showcase their skill set.
So when you say set yourself apart, you mean discover what makes you special and then work on building it and then make sure you leave with a good sense of that when you leave.
Be the big fish in the small pond.
That's always a good deal, isn't it?
And to communicate, regardless of what people might say, I think institutions do genuinely care what our students want. And so if we're not doing
course we
something,
do. Yeah.
we want to know. We want to be best. There's no perfect institution, but most institutions are striving to be better. And when our students tell us we're going to do everything we can and provide reasoning why we can't do it or options on here's how we can do it, that's a good learning opportunity as well for students to go through that. On most college campuses, there's 3 things that students complain about: Wi-Fi, parking, and food.
Yeah.
Every college campus, right?
Yeah, right.
So instead of just complaining about it, what can we do to make it better?
Sure.
Wi-Fi. There you go. Well, Nathan, this has been pretty interesting to both of us,
Yeah.
hasn't it?
Thank y'all so much. I'm going to close this out. This has been the Ask Dr. Ross podcast and today's episode on belonging. If you have any questions, as always, we'd like to hear from you. You can email us at adrquestions@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.